Control room, let me have an indication where we can resume. Okay. Sorry. To the listeners, then we'll get some technical interruption. So, Mr. Mustafa, you were talking, but you get cut off. If you listen, you can call back so we can take off where we left off. So please call back, and so is any listener. Sorry for the interruption. Well, like I been say, Mr. Fode Mustafa been talk about free education, and let us deal with that topic there before he come back on, which I'm sure he will like for finish what he be to say. And the free education. Well, again, this is the thing. You remember when I do my earlier comments, I used the word viable. A viable opposition for be a responsible opposition, an informed opposition. An opposition will not did it no more for calling themselves opposition. Opposition then way they abreast of information. And how for cast the government in a light way, then genuinely think the government is not living up to their potential. That's what a good opposition should be. So when you talk about the distinction, where they talk about this free education sound like a new thing. In fact, I don't know much about that, but all I do know, when I be there, school, not too many kids were out because then people are not getting money. Because so Mr. Mustafa, they shed some light on it, where anybody who disagree with them for be able for call in and say no and give you a position. Well, Mr. Mustafa, they say elementary and middle school were almost free in times of days gone by. So free education may not have been a noble concept. But I have always taken the position that, assuming that, in fact, I think it's a noble concept, particularly when I think in terms of current politicians, then, majority of whom come from deprived background and homes, economically deprived backgrounds and homes, but were somehow able to be educated. They were able to go to school and become who they are today. When we think in terms of those, there was a system in place where enabled them for go school and be educated to where they are. And there were lots and lots and lots of scholarships being given to a lot of people who did not have the financial wherewithal to go to school. Do you mean to? As a matter of fact, me talking to una, until I come abroad, I may ever get anything close to a scholarship. It worked against me, not because my parents were wealthy, but my parents them were well enough for put me in a boarding school, pay me yearly school fee. So people like me, nobody gets scholarship, and so parents then can afford it. So if you apply for scholarships, you know they get them because economically you were doing better than the average child. Okay. Yeah, some people may get academic scholarship, indeed, even if you come in a good home. But that was a mixture of connection and you God-given ability. So, Mr. Musa, but yet a large amount of people, men and women, or went all the way to university education and beyond without ever having to come up with a dime from their own pocket to their parents' pocket. So education was free. So these are the things I want to talk. So if we want to draw a distinction now, tell me, according to this former Minister of Education, how the colonial system was so detrimental to our interests, economic, social, and otherwise. And why is it that what you want to try for replacement which could be better, we're all would see a retrogression. No policy, effective policy in place will even give anybody the slightest belief that things will be better, that happy days are in front of us. So, what Mr. Mustafa be the talk, not true. So, viable, come back to viability. APC, where they try for share power with SFPP, where they try for push themselves in a position, when and for the opposed, but in time to put themselves in a position, say, yeah, if not to una, let be we, if not to we, let be una. They're not looking at in the major interests of the party, of the country. How viable is APC? You know? So when we talk about free, and let me just comment on the free education too. Free education is a noble idea. And whether the president misunderstand the concept of free education or not, the idea alone, by virtue of the fact that he was promoting it, counts for something. It was great. It's a great idea. But waiting me the time for remind people, when these things don't work, not to the gentleman in Peking, it affect. Now, the poor people, now they affect. So when people like we, they oppose and criticize or say critical things about them practices than they, like free education, when you talk about free education, not to reach the poor Peking. Well, we're not talking about minister Peking, we're not talking about professionals in Peking. We're not talking about successful business people in Peking. Now the average child, now the village, now the towns, now then speaking and they would talk about from that kind of background, there were a good many of the minister and permanent secretaries and all these people come from. So then they pretend like for saying not to their background, but that's your background. Now for make when I be more passionate about making sure that succeeding generations get even better privileges for them in future. But instead, when they deprive them, you know. So when we talk about education, well, there was a time, I'm sure the current minister or the former minister, the current minister may not know much about that because he's much too young. The chief minister is not even 40 years old yet. But there was a time in Sierra Leone where you did from 6, you get paid. You receive stipend. This is not doing the waiting in time. Because of the fact that you don't go school all the way to from 6, and from 6 education by any standard worldwide, now university standard of education. Okay, but for whatever reason, the Englishman instruction that way there, and will keep them for a long time. So, but they may give you stipend, actual cash money where you use and spend. That was when money get value. So if we abolish that practice day, what did we replace it with? And some of the students, that stipend day, they make a difference to them. You know? Because that money day, if you get them, you can do a whole lot with them because they were then, people will be to make 7-10 pounds a month. So if you get 7 pounds, 50 shillings or whatever, or 50 pence, that one they be make a huge difference. In fact, not to pence, because I think that'd be 12 pennies to 1 shilling, 20 shilling to a pound. Yeah, that's how the currency be structured. Now, this decimal point where the Americans they inject into universal system, now it can make things easy for we. So, you know, say where you get 100 cents, now $1. Before, in the early years, for one of the young ones, them, Everything was so difficult for calculate. They're gonna 12 pennies, they go to 1 shilling. Then they try to make 12 pennies equivalent to 10 cents. So he uses 10 cents in a dollar. You know, it'd be so easy. Then, of course, it'd be 20 shilling to 1 pound. Well, 1 pound, which you might say equivalent to $1. Okay. But the conversion was a little complicated and harder. So they make things easier for we. But we don't see in our own lifetime a lot of poor people rise from the immediate economic environment, social environment, to living a better life. But what do we have going today? Even a minister. And in those days, you get a lot of ministers them picking them. Sir Albert Magai. This Charles Magai own a sister in Bobo. When of course, I say in Bobo, in Pekin. But Charles Magai big for me. Charles Magai, at the very least, is 80 years old. So a big man. I don't want let anybody misread what I say in Bobo. But I'm referring to the great lawyer, Charles Magai. When he was going to CKC, I was in elementary school then. Okay, Nabo. Okay, CKC was not considered a government school. I mean, a private school as such. They're going to be Catholic school. But CKC was along the line of the elite schools then, like both school and other schools then. Not to like what you would call private school these days in Sierra Leone. Private school, they're actually private. Okay? You can forget money for good then school then they. Yeah, you know. There was a time that then school, like the CKC, like the UCC, then school then they, even you name them, Albert Academy and they, these were not to Albert Academy, but like Methodist Boys High School. These were schools that were in line with any public school like Prince of Wales, you know, grammar schools. Supposedly, even way back then, they could have been considered private schools. But you were not prevented from going to them schools there, not to CKC, not to UCC, because you papa or mama don't get money for pay. It wasn't that hard. Now your intellect will take you go there, regardless of which your economic background. You know? I mean, people that had equal access to these schools, not to like now, the existing prevailing atmosphere now with society. Now, when I say private school, you people and get what they do very well. There is no if but about it. But the school, like me in school, Ahmadiyya Secondary School Abo, well, it was considered a private school in a sense because it was a missionary school. But people like us had to pay full school fee. They could ask how things were run. You know, your parents didn't get for be able to pay. But the one that when parents don't be able to pay, the system provide opportunity for you to go to school without having to pay anything. That's the way it ran. So whether you there both school, whether you there Kenema Secondary School, whether you there Koyema, whether you there Prince of Wales, these are all the government schools that are the names. So, I mean, other people that will be to go where you then at that school and they were just named so. The educational level was not second to any private school. All government schools were great. Minister and picking them, you papa can be minister, you go Prince of Wales, you papa na minister, you go Koyema, you papa na minister, you dey both school. You know? And nobody would think say you get a second tier type of education. No. But now government schools have been subject to them kind of a classification in there, which is not supposed to be. And this is happening with the guys that will get the power, and the guys that will go both school, the Prince of Wales, the government school guys that will get the political power today. Now then, by the action, they put them school and they at the second tier level. They have to be called out. Because once upon a time, in Bo, you used to see Bo School Ahmadiyya, and close by you get Koyema. Nobody looked at anybody having less type of education, or you go in a very poor school, or school will not go give you the level of education. And I have been one of those arguing, and I really want somebody to challenge me on that. In the 60s in Bo, from 1960 to the time when we left Ahmadiyya Secondary School in Bo, I want anybody to tell me, say, any school in Bo was better than Ahmadiyya. Ahmadiyya was the last secondary school for come on. But now we get the best staff than any school, including both school. Chemistry teacher, master's degree. History teacher, master's degree. Biology teacher, master's degree. Physics teacher, master's degree. We were the only school with the staff that highly qualified. But we're not even claim say we're better than people who go out of school. We not look down on any other school. Although some of them schools them because you go on their renowned school and one thinks them better. But on a factual basis, on evidential basis, we were the last major secondary school at that time in Abo, but nobody could rate us inferior in terms of academic qualification. We get the best qualified staff of any secondary school, maybe in the whole country. The best qualified teaching staff. So because those were the days where you hardly get teachers and where they teach with a bachelor's degree. We had teachers with master's degree in all the sciences. So if we want to talk about bragging rights, I happen to have gone to one of the schools in the country where we'll get a bragging right. I don't know after me left Sierra Leone. Okay. But minister picking this and that, they're not going to choose school based on private, but now minister picking don't even go public schools anymore in Sierra Leone. And it get down to this situation because of the people who are graduating at public schools, them will not get sense enough and vision enough and not get the conscience for make sure say the one that will come after them. And then school, then they get equal opportunity. So people like me, we for call them out. And I know some of the people that will go to school and they not even cannot relate to what you had to talk about. So I had to talk the school then, the public school then, the Bo School, the Prince of Wales, the Kenema secondary schools. We end up in the position of power. When they end up with the political power in Sierra Leone, who could have made things better for succeeding generations who did not. In fact, they dismantled so many good things where they enjoy for succeeding generations. So people like me for call them out. Again, I challenge anyone of my era who disagree with anything I say so. I mean, you're welcome to tell me more. You are welcome to disagree with me, and we can have a reasonable debate over the issue. If I'm so far adrift that I'm not dealing with reality, you're welcome. I mean, this is the right platform for come. For say no, the child at both school, things were worse. Things are better now for picking up to go both school. The child at Prince of Wales, things were worse. Now we get the picking away to go Prince of Wales. Everything great for them. The time to go Kenema secondary school, things were terrible. If you're a girl, the time you go Harvard, tell we say things were terrible in those days. I talk about the government schools then. And then these are better times. You're not going to be able to say that because it's not true. You've not made things better for succeeding generations. And so when you get young people, like with chief minister, like Mr. Senge or Dr. Senge, then when you come, even when the schools them, even some of the private schools them became creative by beginning to teach with local languages them in school, by creating alphabets vowels, consonants, and then languages they have for be able to teach with. You take like me, I talk to you in a Creole. But if you give me a Creole book for read, I can't read it because they not teach you that in school. If you give me a Minde book for read, I can't read it. You give me a Limba book, I ran into an old college classmate, American classmate of mine many years ago. Now, we all graduated from college at the same time. He's a born American guy. I ran into him into an exercise place. We were happy to see each other after many years. We start talking. And he said, guess what? You won't believe where I've been. He said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Sierra Leone originally. He said, man, that's exactly where I was. I've been in Sierra Leone for 5-6 years. I said, wow, what a coincidence. What were you doing there? Say, the missionary. He was in Sierra Leone. A missionary there. In fact, he was so proud for telling me, say, he find in roots. He say in roots, and then he still say, he come up from the Limbas. I say, whoa, what a small world. We were both excited, just talking. And then he handed me a book. I looked at the book. I couldn't make head or tail from it. So he asked me, he could figure out, say, I just didn't know what I was looking at. He said, can you read anything in that book? I said, no. He said, Limba that one day. He said, that's Limba. I said, really? He said, yeah. Yeah, he's a born American reading Limba to me from a book. Limba, a language that the country will me come out, which is good. I was proud of him. I was proud of my country. I said, wow, what a way for uplift to languages then, So the private schools and the missionaries them, and from the time when they're home, as a little boy, I go Catholic school. I go ASA school in Penembo. Catechism, they teach them in Minde. So there are a lot of things I could recite even after all these years when we can go in a RK class. Okay, so they were teaching this. So the missionaries, then all this bad name would give them. Then come, then try to uplift with language them. Then try to show where to write them. Will not be the write them. Then try to make them into a coordinated thing that we could be proud of. Now we fight against them in the day. Catechism class na RC school Penebu. Now in Minde will be the repeater. All the Catholic things them. Okay? Places like Bunubu Press, they were doing fantastic stuff in our country. Catholic Teachers Training College. So, we have done ourselves so much harm and we continue to do so much harm. Okay, let me just, because there's a whole lot to talk about. I want to be able to I wanted to end this show at 6 o'clock, but I'll do some extension to it. Let me just add forgiveness some background also. Now we get a situation in conjunction with Ms. Batista Michael in article where I read to her. There was another article I wanted to read to her of certain things then concerning that implementation day of then reform here, this electoral reform within the talk about. And let me just go a little bit with APC, how they don't try for shoot themselves in the foot. I cannot understand. I know I can't understand when are the people and with the really try for example, APC then come up with some new. Let take this one time I will go into party politics. These guys are not being creative. For 2028, they come up with new criteria according to them, where you forget for even become not a presidential aspirant, but flag bearer, the qualification you forget. But when you look at the qualifications, then or the criterion they went in the refer to, or the criteria, you go know right away for say it's written with biases in mind for eliminate certain people, which is what Ernest Koroma do. The last time we didn't eliminate people like people in the diaspora, they take away their ability and will right for vote. And come up with this ridiculous idea for say for go cast a vote. You for jump in a plane and spend thousands of dollars and go to Australia and have a line for vote. Instead of trying to match watching the happen, watching at the trend at the wall, where the diaspora can vote from where they are or certain locations. See, we don't think progressively like that. What you will do, we'll try for restrict and restrain and limit the ability of the diaspora for participate in the annual elections, making it so cumbersome and demanding for you to even exercise the choice of going or not going. Then they give you no alternative but just say, hell, I'm not going. Why would is it worth me jumping on the plane, spending thousands of dollars, go home just for cast a piece of paper where I can do now and achieve the same result? But this is how selfish we are. Now, see, APC is back again at the game. Don't forget about SLPP for right now. SLPP then say they announced the new criteria for presidential aspirant in 2028, which I don't think should be their focus. Their focus is to make sure that the other party not get away with any undue advantage. But they're not focused on that. Okay, they've done enough harm for join the other party, for suppress or exclude the smaller party then, which is a gross disservice to the country. Okay, and the people. All right, now they say the All People Congress has unveiled a comprehensive new set of guidelines for vetting, meaning for pick presidential aspirants ahead of 2028 general election. The move, announced in an internal party document, aims to ensure that the party nominates the most competent, credible, loyal aspirant to compete for the nation's highest office. Okay, let's take that paragraph there. The most competent, credible, and loyal aspirant. Okay, I don't know where the loyalty get for be. Loyalty to the country, loyalty to the party. You know, I don't know. Well, let's just left it that way as it is. Credible. Let's see what are the criteria what and set for get the credibility way it takes for you for be a nominee. And let's see the criteria what and set for competence. Then we'll examine them. It will examine the things them. Let me just tell you and give you a minimum feedback. Okay, the new guideline or guidance outline a multi-phased vetting process, nomination criteria, and structure institutional framework designed to rigorously. Control room, can you move it for me so I can read it as I go along? Okay, there we go. There we go. Rigorously evaluate potential candidates. According to the preamble of the document, the process is in furtherance of the All People's Congress party's commitment to democratic principles, party discipline, and strong national leadership. Central to the new process is the establishment of a vetting committee, a representative body to be chaired by the national chairman or deputy chairman of the APC. The committee's composition is broad, including representatives from the National Advisory Committee, Women's and Young Congresses, the Council of Elders, and even a representative from the Persons with Disability wing. I don't know if a person has disability, why that should make a difference if, as long as you get the mental faculty for participate You can get physical disability and will still just as equally competent, but whatever they had in mind when they say persons of disability, why they have to pick from those groups. Person from disability wing. When they talk about mental fitness now, so I'm sure they're talking about, because if you're mentally disabled, you're not qualified. So I assume these persons with disabilities, they talk about physical disability. So right there, it seems like not much thought was put into the process, because they should not, I'm not impressed that when I go to take somebody from the persons of disability, because so what? If you're in a wheelchair and you get a PhD in physics, you get a PhD in political science, you're just as sound as a guy with 2 foot, very able, moving around. So it's not necessary that you get to take pick a representative from the persons with disabilities, because you talk about physical. Because if the person gets a mental disability, we're not going to take them. Okay, so physical disability should have little or no bearing on this thing when we're talk about. But the National Secretary General would serve as the committee's secretary. The National Secretary General would serve as committee secretary. The document specifies that the vetting will be conducted at the APC National Headquarters in Freetown. Aspirants who are dissatisfied with the committee's decision have a 3-day window to appeal in writing to the Independent Elections Complaints Board, which is mandated to resolve the appeal within 7 days. Now, as a practical matter, even some of the requirements here don't make sense. 3 days is not adequate. And I think anybody, we rarely think about the practical aspect of the here, for be prepared for go to court for challenge the reasonableness. I would say the unreasonableness, but the reasonableness of a 3-day deadline to file an appeal. Now, you could have a 3-day deadline, which I still think is short, to file a notice of appeal, which is different. A notice of appeal is an intent that you intend to appeal, which you could withdraw. But to file an appeal, filing an appeal takes so much time. Watching at this 3-day within the talk about, or they probably didn't reflect it in their writing. Okay, so but some of the if you read this thing in detail, already they try for eliminate certain things them or certain people them who already now the popular people in the party. For example, let me see, 3-phase vetting process. Can we make the writing a little legible so I can read it? But it's much too small on the screen. Okay, phase 1. Expressions of interest and preliminary screening requires aspirant to submit a letter of intent. Nothing wrong with that. A detailed CV. What does that entail? Certified academic certificate. Makes sense. Proof of citizenship and party membership. All right. The document mandates a minimum of 5 consecutive years of active APC membership with no political defect in the past 5 years. Right there. That phrase, with no political defect in the past 5 years. You don't have to be a genius to say Sam Sumana is being targeted. Because it was his membership in the party not be uninterrupted with no political defect in the past 5 years. In the past 5 years. They don't say political defect with no political defect within 5 years, what could be any time. I say in the past 5 years. Tell me this doesn't affect Sam Sumana, or this rule was not put in place with him in mind. I'm not a Sam Sumana, I support anybody in the APC. Phase 2, background checks and verification. It's a deep dive into an aspirant's history. It includes obtaining a police clearance certificate, which I find as a joke, a review of tax compliance, which I also find as a joke, and a scan for any records of financial impropriety or corruption. The committee will also review the aspirant's public service record. assess their financial capability to run a national campaign. Why is that relevant? The aspirant financial capability to run a national campaign. If he says he wants to run a national campaign, he knows it takes money. Why should there be conditions for him to prove that he has the wherewithal financially to run? I think that's oppressive. I think that's unreasonable, and verify all submitted academic and professional credentials. Of course, you don't want people to come up with fake credentials. Phase 3, competency and stability. Assessment involves a rigorous, whatever rigorous means. Because rigor might be in the eyes of the beholder. Rigorous interview process. Aspirants will be required to present their national vision and demonstrate their understanding of domestic and global policy issues. Issues. The committee will also evaluate their political viability. I mean, it's a loaded word, political viability. What does that mean? Fundraising potential. Why should it matter about your fund? If you get the ability, you get the drive, you get the charisma. Isn't that the reason why you get a party? Other person might have the characteristics than the way you not get, what can lead to what it takes to run a successful campaign. And critically, their capacity to unite diverse party faction. I wish someone can show us what are the criteria for having the capacity to unite a diverse party faction. Let somebody tell me what are the criteria for that. Okay, so then it says strict nominations. In addition to the phased vetting, the new guidelines reinforce several strict nomination criteria. Aspirants must hold at least a recognized university degree. That's challengeable. You have to have a university degree to become president. Why? With postgraduate education being a significant advantage, that is not even based on reasonableness, let alone any other criteria. We go school when people finish from 6, they don't even go college. They're very highly well-educated, well-rounded. Would it demonstrate more fitness, more acumen, more everything than with PhDs than today? A minimum of 5 cumulative years in national governance or political leadership is also required. Why will you require 5 years? Of course, the word cumulative, again, sometimes I just wonder what they mean for sitting here or then copy them. Because when you say cumulative, it can be, all right, you work in a government for 1 year. Then you left, you go be businessman. Then you come back, you work for another year. Then Sunday, your mama papa die, so you no work. Then you come back, you work for another 1 year. On and on and on. So even though they were interrupted, but all them breaks then if you put the number of years account to 1, which they call cumulative. Now, I wonder what meaningful impact does it have on somebody who feels say he get what it takes to become president, to represent frivolous, to prevent frivolous application. Candidate must secure endorsement from at least 20 qualified party delegates from a minimum of 5 different regions. Okay? For one of the lawyer in Australia, we don't know much about how you challenge the legality of some of them things here. You don't always challenge them things here from what is written in the books. You challenge them on the grounds of reasonableness. Are these requirements reasonable? Are they necessary? Are they relevant? So now they come up with this new scoring system. I mean, I'm just talking about the APC thing. A key element of the new guidelines is a detailed scoring system. Aspirants will be evaluated across 6 weighted categories. Category 1, loyalty and party service, and give 20%. Then they say leadership and governance experience, 20%. Educational and intellectual merit, 15%. Legal and ethical record, 15%. If we come by ethics, this is interesting. Legal and ethical record, whatever that means, but the ethical part, well, let me be quiet about that. Political vision and strategy, 15%. And financial standing and transparency. To pass, a candidate must achieve an overall score of at least 70%, with no single category score falling below 50. Well, I don't know how all these things are achievable when the people and where they do the scoring, the people and where they do the vetting, are the same people and we get for correct or invigilate the exam. Okay, to pass, a candidate must achieve an overall score of at least 70%. The document concludes by stating that the process is designed to ensure the APC presents a presidential aspirant of high competence, character, and electability. Okay, it also wants that any misrepresentation or falsification of information will lead to automatic disqualification. That's true, that's fine. And disciplinary action, emphasizing the party's commitment to a transparent and merit-based selection process. I think there was one thing about people who have had there is some condition. Let's say this right away disqualify a lot of candidates. Then. For example, the current mayor of Freetown, when an aspirant, she is not going to, because you not get national experience in politics. She's only the mayor of Freetown. So that disqualifies her right there. A person like Adi Macaulay, when one of them lawyer, it disqualifies him. Because I don't think he get a national political experience. Sam Sumana I already don't mention that if he don't left the party, for that alone, he could be disqualified, And then this guy, I think that is a popular guy from America here, Wokomana Blama, what they call Jagaban, where they express some political opinion, intention for run. This also would disqualify him because I don't even think he has any experience at all of local, national, or international, And then Samura, when the leading figure of the party, because he gets in brushes with the law about this accusation, about the case of New York and this and that would disqualify him. So what is APC doing? APC to disqualify all the popular candidates them who seem to get following. Sam Sumana, the mayor, Samura, these are all popular guys in the party. And Jagaban seem for get a lot of support. So now, when I want to disqualify all the great guys, so who do you people have in mind to run against SPP? What a smart idea. I do not understand and then people are working in a sense, then for look at APC and say, yeah, this is the party who want for succeed SPP. Go ahead and go do much better. On what basis? Where is the evidence? And the Secretary General, all them people out and they talk, say, you get for report to, and then they set the conditions, then I then get for past judgment. They don't even get an independent body. So again, I know they're not going to be happy with me bringing this up, but in the interest of the country, guys, you need to do better. APC, wanna show herself like a viable opposition. People will get brains, people will wanna get, but wanna also focus on the power. Wanna don't drop wanna intelligence along the way. Go back and pick them up. And put your thinking cap in place. And stop conniving with SPP. And this split government, 70%, all this kind of thing. Of course, this is injurious to the country and not good for una and for their own well-being. So can we just please think about that? Maybe T.S. Johnson stepped on a few people's toes. Somebody sent in a comment. Well, he may have. But when you look at, if you know anything about T.S. Johnson, and if, of course, Mr. Shyllon, you have a very interesting backstory to your life, especially your youthful days. Thank you. I think I do. And sometimes I like to share some of them background in there. So Mr. Shyllon is some Creole boy. We'll grow up in a Minde line. We'll go to school in a Minde line. We get some Minde characteristics in terms of the environment where I grow. So let me read another one. The APC executive members are a disgrace to humanity, and Sierra Leoneans will stand up to them for failing to stand up for democracy. Dr. Samura Kamara, president-elect, won the elections. No moving on, or something like that. No moving on. Well, whatever the comments has in mind, I agree with it. APC should do better. I, for one, is not convinced that they are what you call a viable opposition. A viable opposition means they are like where you run relay. You're not a viable team leader when I kind of hand you that baton, if you didn't pass, the man will hand you the relay. That's why viability is. You know, for slow the time down, you for add to it or maintain them. We don't have any such thing in the opposition of Sierra Leone. And we on job now for educate people and for when I begin for think critically. Okay? And so people always sit down to think and say this and that. Will not put much time into the process as it is coming. Everybody's focused. I mean, there are other things that I can talk about in terms of even the current. And when the minister had to talk about, then they're almost complete. It's such a great disservice to the country because he knows better. Well, share what you want to do. Let the public know. 74% of the public, 6.6 million people don't know. Dr. Senge. And we're not to talk about the people there. You know, some of us might not be as educated as you people are. Some of us might not have gone to Ivy League schools. But some of us can think. We'll get the basic education for be able to do analysis. So all this thing about college education for be president, what is that all about? You know, I agree for say you forget minimal education. So I think say if you go to school, you do from 5, why shouldn't that qualify or from 6? Why does the man who has a bachelor's degree be any more fit than the guy with a secondary school? Unless one tell we say secondary school education, now substandard education. But me, do me on term, a man will go school from 5, will go school from 6. He can write beautiful English. He can think very well. He can manage an industry, a government department. A lot of permanent secretaries then women to grow up, heads of departments, they didn't have degrees. And they run the system that well. The Englishman then give them a lot of credit. So let us stop putting ourselves down and let us stop being so, I would say, this will righteous indignation we're engaging, we better reconsider Americans and get the saying, we need to get off with white horse so the ride and calm down and walk with the people. That's all I have to say. Let me just add, let me read it. Please, I may want to know your view about the 2023 election. I have a view, but I don't think it will help because me on thing now for attack process, not outcome. I certainly appreciate that. I get a very strong view about the 2023 election, but you can tell by the way I talk and analyze things that I have very little regard of the election because there are a lot of things I oppose. You know, in fact, fundamentally, When we get our constitution say for you for be president, you get for belong to a political party. What is the relevance of belonging to a political party to be president? Like I speak, tell me I'm not fit to be president of Sierra Leone. But I cannot, under any circumstance, be an APC or SFPP. No way. I don't share their political ideology or views. So that should disqualify me. Why shouldn't I be given the right to go form my own political party? If political party is a requirement, well, allow me to form my own. Allow me for calling a party like a 5-member I get. Let me run against the one that will get millions of followers. Let's see, let the best person win. Because we are putting not only a chilling effect, but we really eliminate talent. And before I close, let me just give you an example. In New York City right now, the mayor election, by all indication, some of you don't want to follow American politics. If you follow American politics, if you do home, you there, a lot of you know to follow American politics. But the New York mayoral election is very interesting to follow. You have a young man where now East Asian, in other words, Indian, Ugandan, American. I don't know how to figure it out. He's Ugandan, he's Indian, and he's an American. Now in the lead in New York now, and get all the likelihood for being the next New York mayor. Okay? And watch that politics there to go. Fluent. Things quick on his feet. Philosophical. Motivational. The guy has all the quality where you go hardly see in a politician. Okay? In talent alone, they overcome the shortcomings of money. They run against the billionaires and the politicians and the this and the that in New York City and still they beat them hands down. They go, they prove to people and say, yeah, money matters, but money is not everything. Talent matters, organization matters, aspiration matters, and so on. So APC, when I take a look, read about Mamdani, Mamdami, I think that's last nine, so he's spelling him. Read about him. If we have a big good opposition, like when I see what it takes to inspire people, Sierra Leone need inspirational and aspirational leaders or politicians, not financially hungry politicians. During Million days, when I was growing up in Bo, we had inspirational speakers then. You listen to them, you want your politics like you were 12 years old. Because they were talking in such a way, you say, yeah, you're not going to be a genius for no. We don't have them anymore in Sierra Leone. We don't. Both parties don't have, the two parties are not getting inspirational speakers them at all. You don't listen to any of this guy you want to be a politician. You don't listen to any of this guy you say, I want to join you because you inspire me so much. They don't have them. And this is what people like me are talking about. It's about time the younger generation begin to see. Follow the New York mayoral election. You're going to be impressed. And I hope to see the day where Sierra Leone will get people like that. A court across tribal land. And when you get somebody like that, to the average Sierra Leone, no matter who's tried supposed to be, you go and support them. Let's go back to the days, of the Lamina Sankos and the Wallace Johnsons. The Baibure, the Kailondo time. When Creole people they will be learn all the book with the supporting people against the witch mandate. It not be match at Kailondo na minde, it not be match at Baibure na be Chimini or nothing now. The Wallace Johnsons and all these people, Baibure always had Daily Mail, and he couldn't read and write. Now the Creole man they do stuff for him and interpret and this and that, and he was a tough opponent with the white people. The Creole man don't say, oh, and not. No. There was something about in charisma, about in leadership, will make even the educated Creole man say, this man get the quality of leadership. We will long for them days when the tribe or the area you come in the country, not for matter. So with that, I have gone more than I said I was going to go, but I appreciate when I listen, when I participate, when I send when I comment. And please, if anything there where you want to talk about today, where you want to contribute, where I don't give you a chance because I just keep on talking and talking and talking, make a note of it, bring that up next week. We'll go talk about that. But until then, thank you so much for giving us, precious time and for participate and listen to some of the things that we'll get to say. Until then, good night.